Hey, I'm Nick.
And I'm Graeme.
And this is the Dude, Where's My Code podcast. This is episode 11. Graeme, you and I were just chatting about time off policies and how we've kind of been exposed to completely different worlds now. So that was a pretty cool conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot that you see, week over week now in the news about different organizations choosing to do kind of the unlimited thing or the discretionary thing or whatever. And they all have their own reasons for it. But I think what's important is regardless of the environment, we think about as managers how we make use of that environment for what's best for the people on our teams, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so it was a really good conversation. If you could do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave comments. We think you'll love it. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
I actually don't even know what situation previous companies would have had for you in terms of paid time off and all that.
I mean, for time off, I got really used to, like when I worked at PlanGrid in like 2017, that was an unlimited PTO plan.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it was my first introduction to that, but it was also kind of early in my working for US tech companies career, right? And so that was the first. And then they got acquired by Autodesk, and Autodesk didn't have an unlimited PTO policy, but actually adopted PlanGrids and rolled it out to all of their employees at Autodesk.
Oh, that's interesting.
So then we had it there.
Okay.
So that's kind of, and then like Circle CI was the same thing. It was like, but everyone has a different name for it. Discretionary, unlimited. Right. Some places have a minimum time off just because they want to make sure they meet some of the needs of people maybe not using PTO.
Right. So they kind of roll it into the naming convention to like literally try and suggest like this is how we approach it.
Yeah, that, and there's also the legal aspect of like if we have a minimum, then we have to pay you out for days not used if you leave, as opposed to unlimited, we don't have to pay you out for anything because we don't owe you anything. So there's different takes on that corporately. But now where I'm at, where it is kind of back to a set number. I think it's, I should know. I think it's 4 weeks, but we also have a Christmas shutdown, which is part of that. So it's kind of like, it's just over 3 weeks, I think. And then the longer your tenure, the more you unlock. Along with that comes like sick days and different kinds of days off. Okay. But there is a number to it. And again,
like a mental health day kind of thing, or
mental health days, like sick days, I think like some sort of parental leave days.
Right. Okay.
But they all have caps associated with them. And that's, again, kind of my first time being in that environment since basically 2016, 2017.
So that's kind of interesting, right? Because I call it like the traditional way of having set numbers of days for things or whatever, and you accrue them either through the year, and then like the caps increase with tenure. Like I'm going to call that the traditional way. I assume that is the traditional way. And then you've actually more recently been acclimated to like more call them unlimited time off paradigms until very recently, and it's kind of back to the old ways or however.
Right.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Whereas I guess it sounds like this is kind of a new experience for you with Microsoft rolling theirs out.
Yeah, like complete inverse. I've only, I guess, full-time after university worked at 2 places, right? So we didn't have this at Magnet. It was like sort of the traditional thing. And yeah, Microsoft, because they just changed it, it's like completely new to me. And given that we're in manager positions, right, it's not only new for me as an individual to be like, how do I like go take vacation? And to be honest, like, I don't know, like you and I probably have different sort of outlooks on how we would take vacation, right? And you have a family, and I have a fiance, so I do have a family, but I don't have like we don't have kids and stuff that we might be, traveling with and that kind of thing. And I guess more like dedicated time for family that you might have. So
technically you have a freer schedule, but
yeah. So for me, it's like, it's a double whammy where I'm kind of like, I personally haven't kind of figured out how I'm looking at my own time off, but also for my team now, I need to kind of do not just like the mental, rearrangement of that. I have to have conversations with people and really truly understand, like, how is it that you like to approach vacation and kind of align to that with them?
Because I've gotten accustomed to working in and managing in like these unlimited PTO situations, I started to develop some like kind of operating models around it that I'm actually trying to figure out how to reconcile today in my kind of current situation, because I really leaned pretty far into kind of this like take what you need, give what you can model. And so I always figured, well, if you have unlimited days, like tracking is like, what's the tracking for, right? It was like,
sure.
Well, I said that, early in my career, or early in my more recent career, I worked at places that had unlimited PTO, but they would often actually advertise like, well, what that means is, aim for an average of 15 days or whatever. And it's like, well, okay, like there's, fundamentally there's some concerns with that.
Which one is it? Yeah.
So when I think about how that works, for me, it's like, well, what problems does tracking solve? Now, I mean, everyone with like the HR backgrounds is like tearing their hair out when they hear this, I think. But I honestly, especially in 2020, when things got pretty crazy for everybody, I kind of stopped like caring about how much people had taken. I mean, obviously there's a limit, right? And like part of my like take what you need, give what you can mentality comes with a second kind of thing that I give people, which is don't be the person a policy is made or named after. So if we have unlimited PTO, right? Don't be the person who makes us not have unlimited PTO because you tried to take 3 months in a row.
Right.
Right? Like, just don't do that. Like,
not coming into work this year because it's vacation time. And
right.
Yeah.
Like just be reasonable and then I'll be reasonable back. And when you need time off, like you've got it. And when we have an incident and you need to stay a few hours to make things work, stay a few hours.
Right.
So that's kind of the way I've worked for a long time. And it got to the point where it was like, yeah, people need to go to appointments. People got to go to appointments. People want to get outside and walk their dog because it makes them feel better and it makes them a more productive human. Go do that.
Right.
You need a day off because 30 centimeters of fresh powder just fell and you want to go on a great snowboarding day. Well, do you have any hard deliverables that are due? No. Go snowboarding. Like that's kind of the way it has been. And in reverse, what employees, our team members gave to me was when we had major incidents, when we had hard release dates, they worked their asses off. Yeah. Like they just did. And it's kind of like we had this mutual bank and no one ever skewed so far in either direction that I was concerned.
Right.
And so now I'm really trying to reconcile that with I still really truly believe that. But if we have tracking systems in place, we have numbers in place in the name of equity, it's not particularly fair for me to operate that way with the team members I have if the rest of the organization isn't operating the same way.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. And I don't know if you've done this yet or it's coming or your thoughts on it, but like if that's kind of on your mind, have you had conversations yet with other people that like manage people or lead people to be able to say like, hey, like this has been my philosophy. And given that, we have like whatever structure in place for tracking and all of this, like, how do I make sure that like it's kind of congruent with what you're following and not creating this sort of pocket within the company of like, well, on Graham's team, everyone just does what they want and it kind of goes under the radar. You know what I mean? Like, do you have thoughts on how you might kind of navigate that?
I mean, it's no surprise. It's still early.
Sure.
But I guess it's yet to be determined. One really awesome thing is that as an organization, we're starting to focus more on team health So, as an organization that was trying to grow and scale for years before I was there, so I take no credit for this, right? The focus was understandably, like, we got to get stuff done. We got to build stuff. We got to make money and do the thing. And so a lot of the goals and initiatives and OKRs were always oriented around deliverables and milestones that were all product and productivity focused. And now it's like, actually, we want a team that's got long-term legs on it. And so we need to take care of that team. And so there is a new renewed focus in team health. So I think as that conversation grows and evolves, so too will how are people on the team empowered to take care of themselves and express like their needs and execute on their needs. So it's cool. There's a nice framing to put that conversation into.
Right. And not to kind of ask you a million questions, but something that I was kind of curious about, given that you are sort of like new in management at this company, it's going to take time to do it, of course, but building the relations with people on your team to like, through one-on-ones, like kind of learning, obviously, like people's skills, their strengths, their weaknesses, all this kind of stuff. You're also going to be connecting with them on a personal level. To whatever degree makes sense for your sort of situational leadership. But I guess, and maybe this is like a leading question or something, but your thoughts around kind of like how you might have to approach navigating, like understanding how people take vacation and like how they recharge and like, what are their perspectives on vacation time? Like, do you have thoughts on how you're going to approach that with your team, or if you've started?
Not explicitly. I think, you probably know this, and I think based on kind of our short conversation before recording, I think you even alluded to it, right? Like everybody is different.
Right.
Vacation means different things to different people. I think there's a couple of pieces. So one is obviously getting to know people on a personal level, understanding, what they're about, what their lifestyle is about, what recharges them and what drains them is something that I think all managers should know about the people who report to them. Having said that, I have said many times and will continue to say, I will forever be a role model for taking time away for whatever it is, right? I'm more than happy to model that. I've never been someone who didn't take my vacation. I did get into a phase for a little while where I was like hoarding my vacation so I could carry it over, so I could have a year with like a good chunk, so I could go do something.
Kind of restructuring how you're going to utilize it, but it's not you're not trying to go like, I'm just never going to use this, like pay me for it. It's like, I just need to kind of reshuffle it so that I can maximize how I intend to use it.
Right. So twofolds is like modeling that it's okay to take vacation and take time away and use that to be healthy and happy. And then the other half is understanding what people as individuals need,
right,
and work on that. And I think I would say, like, I know that you're someone who likes working, and has in past been on the like not taking enough vacation side, at least in the organization's view.
Yep.
And I would say, I think forcing anybody to do anything is almost always the wrong position to be in. If you're forcing someone to do something, like, think about that. But I do think reframing what that looks like. So, if you're someone who likes working on things, that's how you get your enjoyment and how you like spending your time. But being at work every day, even if it's fun, is still draining when there's lots of demands on you and there's things that need to be shipped and deadlines that need to be hit. Like even, I mean, this is not the greatest example, but saying like, well, is there something that you were interested in working on outside of the scope of our like expected current deliverables? And like, how about you take a week and like go do that at home? Like, you're still, you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Like it's like, it's like you can go refresh by stepping away from your current work expectations and still fit that need of like, well, I want to be like working and doing things.
Right.
I think there's ways to do that. So it's understanding what people need. I had someone on my team, and they were there was like a lot of political unrest very close to them, right? Okay. And it was like my inclination was to go and say, listen, like things are from my perspective, things look stressful and intense, right. And I suspect that takes a toll on you. You know, if you need to step away from work to get your head straight or to take some time to come to terms with what's going on, like by all means. And they said to me, you know what, like I appreciate that. But actually I'm finding myself needing to be distracted from all of this. And a healthy distraction for me is like writing code. It's like, please don't make me go away. Basically.
It's funny you mentioned that. I had it actually might be for, I mean, the same underlying reasons, right? I had an individual that I work with where I was basically a similar conversation where it was like, from my perspective, I'm assuming that this is probably having an impact, and, you know, please feel free to like, you know, take time. Like, this is with the previous Microsoft structure, but being like, don't put it in the tracker. Just like, it's understandable. Like, take the time. You know, you're getting your work done and everything. There's no concerns there. I just said, like, just give me a heads up so that like I know that if you're not going to be around, then like I'm not like, hey, like, where are you? Help. So, and the response was actually similar. It was kind of like, I find that this helps me like focus on something that's not the thing that's stressing me out. Now, there were instances where, yes, it was leveraged, and that was great. So there was the flexibility there, but the same initial feedback was like, this happens to be a good escape for me. So I'm happy to do it.
So what's your take on the reception to like Microsoft's move towards this kind of discretionary time off thing?
Yeah, I mean, internally when I've been chatting with people, I mean, right away, I actually had no questions from people on my team, which I thought was fascinating, not because it's right or wrong or whatever to react in a particular way or not. But I think my expectation was that there was just going to be a flood of questions because it was like, this is just very different. And certainly for me, I was like, not that I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what do I do? Like, it was more just like, I probably have questions that I need to get figured out. Like, I don't even know what they are yet, but I think I have some questions. So the questions started to trickle in and stuff, but nothing was like, okay, let me put it this way. Given how big of a difference I think the policy is in terms of like just literally restructuring how vacation works, the types of questions that I was getting did not seem to be like in the same magnitude of like how different the policy is. It was more just like,
do you think like, because this is a thing that has been common kind of, or at least cropping up in the industry, that people have kind of heard of it? They're like, oh yeah, I know, like, I think X, Y, and Z have been talking about this for years, so like we kind of know what it's about. But then slowly, when you think how it applies to your current situation, you might eventually be like, oh, you know, I did some questions about some edge cases, or how this like specifically works in reality when I go to implement it.
That's more what it was. So I think, to your point, are people kind of familiar with the concept? Yeah, I think that's probably part of it. I would also. I'm kind of I'm making assumptions here about people on my team because I haven't like interviewed them individually and done it, but been going ad hoc with people if they have questions and concerns. But I think that how we've been operating over the past couple years actually kind of lends itself to some of this flexibility that people already have. Like, so just to give you an example, like I've always thought it would be kind of a stupid use of vacation days if you're like, I need to take a vacation day because like I just have to go do errands today. Yeah. I'm like, man, like that's okay, I get it. Like if that's how your company's structured and that's the only way you can get time, I get it. But to me, that feels like fundamentally wrong because That's not you relaxing. That's
not vacation.
You're not vacationing. You're taking time away from work to address other things that have built up. So I'm not saying it's wrong to do that. I'm just saying it feels like it's not accomplishing what I imagine vacation days are for. So given that over the past couple of years, and I can't speak for everyone in Microsoft, of course, but for the people that I work with, I feel that people have been able to take it. I'm going to say take advantage of. I don't mean like abuse, but have been able to take advantage of the fact that it's like, look, I gotta take my dog to the vet, or I have to go for a doctor's appointment, or I need to step out for the afternoon. And it's like, cool, do it. Like, people we're in a bunch of different time zones. People are on early or late. It's like just so much flexibility there. So I'm making an assumption that people started to get a little bit used to that. So I think there's a couple parts there. But yeah, I think the other part you mentioned is that when it comes to a specific implementation of that, I think that's more of the questions I've started to be getting. Like, so like, do I still come to you and like how does it work? Where do I put my time, or like how do I do it? And I'm like, right. I think the way that we approach this is basically the exact same way that you would have done it before. You just don't type your time in anywhere. You say, hey, Nick.
It's not just don't show up on a day when you don't feel like working.
Yeah, I'm like, just, what you did before was like, hey, Nick, I'm thinking about taking this week off. And some people tell me what they're doing, and other people are just like, just want to take the week off, and don't give me the details. And
oh yeah, total aside, have you ever seen like the tracking systems where like it's usually an optional field, but they have the like reason for vacation field? Have you ever seen that?
Now that you're asking it, I'm like, I wonder. I actually don't even know what ours has at Microsoft, or had previously. To be honest, I can't.
It just makes me laugh because I've definitely seen it. We had it at one company. I can't remember which ones I was. It doesn't matter. But I used to just write like total bullshit in there because my boss. I had a great relationship with my boss, but I mean, I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, as a manager, I have no business knowing what you're doing when you take time off, and it shouldn't matter, to be honest, at all. And so, it was just like.
It is kind of funny, yeah. Like, am I going to say, no, you can't take your vacation because you're going to go to Mexico and be on a beach and it's going to be good weather? Yeah. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, I think just to go back to your question, I think it came down to specific implementation, but beyond that, not many people have said too much. That's been internal. And I think I've observed more, sort of polarizing reactions externally to Microsoft. And when I say externally, to be fair, I don't know if the individuals that I'm either reading kind of summaries from are necessarily outside of Microsoft or had worked at Microsoft. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I just know that they're not on my team, so it's not like a immediate relationship. So just wanted to clarify that. But the polarizing part I kind of see is like things like, and I'm going to be paraphrasing, so I don't. Number one, I don't mean to get this wrong. Number two, I don't mean to say this like it's my opinion, just for the record. But the kinds of things I'm hearing are like, oh, well, it's not in the benefit of the employee. It's all for the employer. It's going to basically allow any employer that implements this to not have debt associated with employees. So if they leave, there's nothing like, oh, we got to pay you out. And then the other thing was like, well, it's known that like at, tech companies and, you have like type A personalities with engineers, like they don't take a lot of vacation. So they're effectively just going to be like lowering the average number of vacation days used to like get more out of the people. And I mean, like, I don't know, my opinion is kind of like, man, I think you guys have shitty managers because like, I don't know, like, could someone make the argument, and is it true that Microsoft did this for cost saving reasons? Like, I have literally no idea. So is it possible? Absolutely. Sure. Mm-hmm. I wasn't sitting down with Satya being like, hey man, like, I think we should change the vacation. Like, I have no idea. I also, and I genuinely believe this, but a lot of the people focus in the company that comes down through senior leadership is like, it's so genuine and almost like contagious that even if it was a cost saving thing, I don't think that there's a malicious intent associated with it too. It's not like, hey, we're going to save money and like, screw all y'all. It might be, honestly, it would feel like, hey, this could save money. And like, this is actually something that, would help people. That's a genuine response. Like no one at Microsoft is like giving me an extra bonus for saying this kind of thing. That'd be nice. But, I honestly think that if you have leadership in a position that's like, we're going to do this and roll it out and kind of take advantage of people not taking their days. Obviously, that's pretty malicious and shitty, but the sort of aligned to that and not malicious is almost like I don't know what to do in this situation, and I'm just going to sort of accidentally let people fall into this not taking enough vacation kind of thing. Like, you need to actively manage the people that you lead, understand them situationally, and for some people, it might be that they take less vacation in a given year. And Graeme, you had a good example of yourself, or maybe you wanted to, do a bigger trip or something the year after or something. I don't know. But I think as a manager, if you're not taking these things into account, and for example, you're like, well, I'm going to write down everyone's vacation days and kind of force everyone to take the average, or like, nah, like you have to approach it in a situational way. That's my rant.
Just had this memory that I think is a really actually good example of kind of the give and take at work.
Sure.
And you will know it intimately because intimately, it's a fun word. Well, I mean, just you wait. But back when we were working on Magnet Acquire, in the early like prototyping days, a small group of us worked for like 18 plus hours a day for like 6 to 7 days a week for like a month, if I remember correctly. Like a lot.
And for the record, who forced us to do that? Just for the record.
Oh, I was clamoring and trying desperately to be like allowed to help do it. Like,
right. So for the record, it's not like anyone at the company was like, you guys better or else, or there was even like do this thing and here's your huge reward or something. It was genuinely like, if I'm awake, like, how can I spend time on this?
Yeah, we saw a need and an opportunity, and we genuinely wanted to do this thing. So when I tell people that and they only hear that part, they're like, oh my God, that sounds horrible. And I'm like, well, hold on. There's a few key important elements to this. One, I wouldn't do that today. I have a wife. I have a kid.
Yeah.
Right. I've got a lot of responsibilities. I've got like,
even I would like to, and my fiance would be like, absolutely not. So, like,
right. So neither of us would do it today, but we both were in life positions that allowed us to. So we wanted to, and we could. Right. So that's one important piece of information is like, I wasn't like skipping out on my family to do this. I was just like, I'd go home and feed the dog and like sleep enough to be coherent the next day and then do it over again because I actually enjoyed what we were doing. So I was like getting energy from the act of like participating in this project. When it was done, I said, whenever I need time off, I'm just going to take it. That was my response. Like, I don't think that we can count the number of like loo days you would owe me for the amount of work I would have put in. And I don't want to count how much loo time because I don't view it that way. What I view it is as I stepped up and put in the effort to help the company when it was needed. And if I need to take some time away to go do some things, I'm going to do it. And it's not going to go in the vacation tracker. And the answer was like, yeah, sounds good. Sounds reasonable.
Yeah. And it's not like at any point you were like, cool, now that I like snuck that little thing in there, like I'm just going to take the next half of the year off and like see you later. Like, no, because it was all like a balanced system of trust. Right. And it's like, I think there's and I can't say this for everyone. I just feel like there's a missing ingredient for a lot of people at work, and it's like enjoying it. And I mean, enjoying it, not like, I just like some of the people I work with, or like, I like working in C# because it's a nice language. But I mean, like, you use the word getting energy from it. like I'm introverted. I manage people and I like managing people, but it actually is draining for me at the end of the day if I have a lot of meetings and one-on-ones. But if I'm working on, like, for me, like building things that I'm pumped about, like I will pour time into it doesn't really make sense, and I don't understand like the biology part of it, but like, am I going to be tired if I work on something for 18 hours straight? Yes, physically tired, but like the drive it's like the thing that kind of compensates. I just feel like people that say things like, oh, like that sounds so terrible about working all that time. I'm like, I feel like it's because you've never actually worked on stuff you love. Like, sorry, but that's how I see it.
Right. Yeah, there's that element, and there's the element of trust, and not every place has it. Not everybody has it in their employer and their manager, and not every manager and company has it in their people. But I default to genuinely, fundamentally, I think people want to work for the most part, like not like, oh my God, I want to slave my life away until retirement, but I think people generally want to be doing something. And so I think it's actually
like purposeful, right? Like the thing that you're doing right this moment, whoever you are listening or watching, that might not be the thing, but I mean, assuming that you could find the thing, it's probably something that would give you purpose and be fulfilling and energize you. So
yeah, and I just even think if it's like, even if it's not the most purposeful thing you can imagine yourself doing, you know, a good manager who gives you the right space and the right inspiration and the why to motivate, like why we're doing this, even if it's not some altruistic like mission, like that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think the right environment with the right amount of like trust and inspiration and kind of coexistence, like can lead to enjoyable work. You know, like I used to say, I don't care like what domain I work on. It's like who I work with and the environment that I work in. That's evolved. I actually do care about what I do now, but I didn't at the time.
Yeah, I've said similar things actually, and like I think the people are a big part of it, but I can absolutely think of projects where I'm like, even with great people, I'm like, yeah, like the space doesn't, and maybe it's like a getting older thing. I don't know, like where you have different, you know, your time and what you value in life in general is kind of shifting. Like maybe that's getting older. Kind of yeah, I mean, like I'm not even going to show you the back of my head, but if this is going, like you don't want to see back here.
Well, they'll meet in the middle, and then it'll all be.
I don't know what's happening.
Someone said something once. I totally forget like the context and who and whatever, but this kind of like thing has this concept has stuck with me, which was like these environments that like track employees, and I mean even vacation tracking. I mean, I get it, and I have friends in HR who are going to shred me if they hear this, I'm sure, and that's fine because I don't know the specifics of their side of the story. And that's fair, yeah. Right. Like I don't know, but for me, like, oh, you know, well, places that are resistant to like unlimited discretionary PTO, like, well, people, what if people take too much? What if people abuse it? Right. People like there's this like fundamental distrust, and it's so interesting to me. And there's so many things that fall under this umbrella. It's like lots of systems in place. I mean, back in the day when companies did time tracking, like that was a big one for me. Like what? But it's like we trust people, adults, to pay mortgages on homes and raise children into living humans, right? And like drive cars safely. And there's this huge list of things that we trust adults to do. And then they come to work and we have to like strip all that trust away. Yeah. And I'm like, why? That part has just always kind of confused me a little bit. And so I basically my entire career have operated way more on the trusting side of the spectrum, and it has worked. I have had minimal abuse of it, and most of that was manageable by understanding like, well, one, either getting to the core problem and like sussing that out and working with the individual on that, or two, if they are not to be trusted and they're abusing the system, it probably wasn't just about vacation, right? Like we could have had a non-unlimited vacation policy, and they could still be sitting at their desk saying they're working on things and not working on things. or playing video games when they're working from home or whatever, right?
You'd start to see those behaviors crop up in different ways regardless of the vacation policy, right? Like
right.
It's if you have someone that is going to abuse something like that and genuinely, like, you were giving them the trust and everything, they would have found something else to try and take advantage of, because it's probably just inherently part of how they're approaching things. So
yeah, and as a manager, I have a pretty strict, like, no bad apples policy. I think we've talked about this before. I believe that if someone isn't operating desirably, like, we will work on coaching and we will work on providing, like, tools and training and mentoring and all the things needed to get that individual operating in line with our values. If we can't, if they are uncoachable, then they have to go. And I think that, like, this is another example of that. If we have individuals that we don't trust in this one thing, then they're probably not trustworthy in other spaces. And then we need to do the same thing. We need to figure out if we can work on that and help that get better, or if they are just fundamentally not to be trusted, and then, like, they just got to go.
Right.
So I don't see a policy like Microsoft switching to discretionary. I don't see that any viewpoint of abuse by the employees as one that seems valid to me, because that just requires better management.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. And, like, so maybe, I don't know, like, maybe Elon or someone is like, well, everyone working from home is not actually working.
Right.
I don't know, like, Microsoft's a huge company. Like, I would say, like, statistically, I feel like there guaranteed has to be at least one person that is taking advantage of the system. Like, I feel like statistically there has to be, because there's so many people. So, like, okay, so yeah, it's going to happen, but, like, I don't know, like, is that the default case? And if it was, like, don't you think we have a bigger problem that, like, we don't trust people that work for us and with us? Like, that sounds way worse. So I don't believe that to be the case. I have a lot of trust in my team, at least. I hope they have trust in me. I feel like they do. And that's why I'm saying I just genuinely hope across the board people have managers where they have good trust relationships with. And then conversations like this are, like, you know, even up through, you're talking with, like, your leaders and up through senior leadership, like, there should be enough trust through the different hierarchies that exist in management, where it's not like, oh yeah, like, gotta be careful because everyone's abusing it. Like, if you feel that way, like, man, something just feels wildly off if that's the case.
Totally. And so then conversely, right, the other, like, viewpoints is, oh, the org is just doing this to save money, and it's not altruistic in any way. It's like, it's to their benefit. And, like, I say, okay, well, you as an individual have full control over how you respond to that. You think the company's doing it to save money? Take more time off, like, if you need it, right? Like, it's just, like, it's so strange to me to be like, what's the alternative?
Yeah. Like, I mean, like I said, if one of the benefits for the company was saving money, okay, and it was not intended to be malicious to employees, the thing that you as an employee control is how much time you take. So instead of just being like, I'm shaking my fist because company is saving money, I'm like, well, number one, you work for them, so isn't it good that they're saving money? Just right. Like, if you isolate it, yeah. And then because you control how much vacation you take, like, I don't know, like, take the vacation that you think you deserve, and you're allowed to because that's how the policy is designed. So do it. But
yeah. And so I guess, like, so what's the manager perspective? Right. There's the risks from a manager perspective. Abuse. I think we covered that.
I was going to say, I feel like the abuse part from a risk management, I feel like, at least for me, like, I just am absolutely not concerned about that.
Right.
And I hope most people aren't. But
so then you look at, like, okay, well, you might have those type of individuals on your team who traditionally don't take enough vacation.
Right.
And I think we talked a bit about, like, well, it's not up to you to force them to take the time off, but it is up to you as a manager to make sure that they are feeling safe enough to be able to identify what they need to be healthy and then work within those bounds.
Yeah. And that's how I've approached conversations so far about the new policy. I've been telling people, because I use myself as an example, right? I don't take a lot of vacation. I am fortunate that like I have someone like my fiance now where I'm not blaming her that I take more vacation. It's actually good. Like we go do things, going back to Canada for holidays and stuff like that. Like it's good. So I'm not complaining. It's just different. And so historically I've not taken a lot of vacation. I now have to talk with people and being like, look, I know what it's like to be told like you have to take your vacation days, and it sucks. I honestly, I just really hate that. So, I tell people that the way that I'm looking at it is really like, I want to make sure that that you do not feel guilty if you want to take vacation. If you want vacation, take it. Like if you're doing your work and we're having our one-on-one conversations and expectations are aligned and things are good, take your vacation. I would say, like, if we're having conversations and every time it's like, yeah, like this is really not going well. And you're like, well, that's nice. And I also want to take 4 months off. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you're already not performing well, maybe we want to have a bigger conversation about reevaluating that. But the big focus for me, well, two things: making sure people don't feel guilty, and then myself leading by example there. Mm-hmm. And if I happen to be someone that takes less vacation, I need to be very explicit about my time off and being like, hey, everyone, like I'm waving my arms here. I'm going, and like, see you later. This is going to be a sweet trip. I'm totally going to relax. I'm also guilty of telling people, because sometimes I take vacation and I'm like,
but
my work computer's here. And then I'm taking vacation right here. And I will tell people, I'm like, I'm available. I'm like, but I want personally, for how I operate teams, message me whenever you want. I don't care. Message me. But the expectation of a fast response needs to be adjusted for where I am. So if I'm on vacation, message me. I don't care. I don't expect that that's inverse, and I try to make that clear. Mm-hmm. But message me when you want. And if I'm at my computer and I happen to see a notification and I'm not busy, I'm happy to help you because I enjoy it. But if I'm like on a beach somewhere and I'm not by my phone and you're messaging me and then having the expectation that I get back to you right away, like, you're going to be not having a good time. So,
yeah. You touched on the other piece of that risk for me, which is like, the sense that because you have more of it, you're not entitled to that deeper vacation, right? That's the other piece of that risk that you've kind of touched on, which is like, I don't want people thinking, oh, well, like I'm taking this time off, but like I'll have my phone. So if you need me, like I can be available. And it's like, mm-hmm. I'm much like you. I think I probably inadvertently model poorly that like, I don't mind being messaged. And if I can help, I will. I don't mind that. I've actually used the phrase that people often like, I'm like, hey, I'm an adult who knows how to manage my notifications. Like if I want to set notifications off for a vacation, I'll do that. And you don't have to worry about self-regulating how you message me, because the expectation isn't you change when you are going to message me, or if you will, when I'm on vacation. The expectation is how I'm going to respond, which is I might not.
Yes. Or 100%. Yeah.
Right. So it's about setting the right boundaries, which isn't do not message me. It's don't expect an immediate response. I'm on vacation. Now, I've been told by many people, like, I'm the kind of person who says like, okay, like I'm off for the day, right? Like off to go do my evening family life. But I got Slack in case you need me. And I have people like frequently on me about like, don't do that. You're modeling
wrong thing to model.
That always on. And I respect that. I truly do. But I also feel like as a manager, we are more accountable to the people around us than ICs. And so for me, like I model that by saying like, my job is to help you. So I need to be more available than you do. It's generally my approach.
I struggle with that a lot, because that last thing you mentioned, if you couple that in with the vacation approach, right? It's like, I genuinely get enjoyment out of helping people. It is what it is. So if I'm away, if I can help you because I'm not busy, I want to let people know that I'm happy to do it. But I need to, and I feel like other managers, of course, need to recognize this as well. If you're similar, you just have to be, as transparent as possible, that you don't have that same expectation of other people. Some people, they're like, I'm off work and like, don't you dare talk to me. Cool. Like, yeah, that's fine. That's you. I'm not forcing you to do the same things I do. But I need to be careful, because it's not about that. It's about modeling, right? Because anyone in a leadership position, whether or not it's formal or informal, you will have people emulate you, and you need to be careful, because if you have, the traits that we're talking about right now, your modeling behaviors, people will pick up on it, right? And I think there's just a duty as a manager to be able to be very transparent and articulate expectations in a clear way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I think we covered a lot about, it's not even just about PTO. It's much about managing trust and expectation setting.
It's weird, right? It always kind of comes back to like trust and expectations and transparency.
Safety. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple things that I know I'm going to be practicing. It's going to be, I'm not saying it's going to be easy to navigate this, but it's going to be learning for me. And I'm excited personally, because it's going to be just different challenges. So a lot of growth for me, and I'm hoping that I can kind of work on those relations within my team to just make sure people feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the same for me too. Really thinking about how to understand what everybody's needs are, make an environment where they are comfortable and safe to share what their needs are. And we have that kind of two-way trusting conversation to be like, look, if you ask me, you tell me you're struggling, and I tell you that, hey, yeah, that doesn't sound great. Like, just close the laptop right now, call it a day, right? We need enough trust to know that that doesn't mean I expect you to show up early tomorrow or stay late tomorrow. The expectation isn't that. The expectation is, hey, when we as a team need from you, and you can give.
And you can give, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's the important piece to that. And the interesting thing about equity is that it does not require that everybody gives the same amount. And maybe this is my closing thought is, I worked with a team where the people who had more available time and didn't have like responsibilities of kids and stuff chose to offer up and step in when those who had like more responsibilities just of dependence needed it. And it was really cool to see, because there's no expectation that that's true, right? It's like, oh, someone has kids and someone else doesn't, therefore I don't have to give as much, right? It's not about that. It's about like, sometimes I can't give as much, but know that when I can, I will. And I think that's just so important. And seeing it work in a team was just so amazing to me. And I think it's one of the hardest concepts to grasp. And I know like my wife and I talk about this all the time, because she's way more versed in this stuff than I am, but equity doesn't mean that everybody gets and gives the same amount. It's all within their means. And I think that is really interesting. So I'll, continue exploring that and keeping that in mind, because it's not about, oh, I noticed that this person's taking more vacation, I should encourage that person to take more to catch up.
Yeah. You got to take an extra 3 hours of vacation so you can catch up to Sally, and then it's all equal.
Right. So yeah, for anybody listening, if you haven't heard about the differences in equality and equity, I highly suggest looking that up. I think it makes management, take on a whole new light when you recognize that your job isn't to balance the universe, so to speak, but to make sure people's needs are met and fulfilled. So,
yeah, I like that, Graeme. Well, thanks. I think this is a really good conversation. The vacation policies and stuff are totally interesting. It's neat that we have similar kind of approaches that we're going to have to take, even though we've literally completely flip-flopped on the paradigms we have to work through. So this is a good talk in the yeah, like I said, I'm excited to kind of see as we go forward and how things evolve. So
yeah, right on.
Thanks. All right, folks. Well, thanks for watching. If you can do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave us your questions and comments, challenging all of our thoughts about vacation policies and why you think we're wrong. And then we'll arm wrestle you in the comments. That would be great. And we'll see you next time. Take care.